What's going on, guys? Today I've got a really special video. To the right of me, I've got a Lexus that is a Lexus. To the left of me, I've got a Toyota that looks like a Lexus. I've got a 2025 Crown Signia versus a 2024 NX350. Now, these two vehicles side by side, they look very, very similar. Inside, they also look very, very similar. We're gonna take a closer peek today to see which one gives you more value for the money you are spending, as the Crown Signia being our newest SUV to market and our closest comparison to a Lexus we are going to be getting into. My name's Aiden with Upper James Toyota. Let's get into the video. Now, at a first glance, these two vehicles definitely look very similar. And I think the Lexus kind of looks like the Toyota and vice versa. And I think that the design of the Crown Signia, especially up against this new RX design, definitely makes the vehicle look a little bit more futuristic and more of the Lexus themed than any Toyota that we now offer in our lineup. Now, on the front end design of the Lexus, I've always said this, and I will continue to say this, that the Lexus lighting is superior to any other brand on the market, in my personal opinion. I think the way the lights look on the front, I think the way the lights look on the rear, they have done a very, very good job at excelling over any other manufacturer on today's market. However, I'm gonna hold my sentence and end it there, because on the Crown, I think they've also done a very good job at designing that and keeping a new thing on the vehicle, which is the lights and a new design of the vehicle, very, very similar to, in my opinion, the best lighting manufacturer on the market, which is this next to me right here. I think the way that this reverse checkmark looks on the RX, on the NX, on an IS, I think that is where Lexus has definitely excelled. Now, on the front end design, I think that Lexus's grills, they are very, very large. And I think this next to the Crown Signia, I'm still going to be in favor on Lexus on this one. I think that the all black glossed grille really complements this vehicle very well. Doesn't matter which color your vehicle is in. Now, this being, more of a higher up, I believe it's an F Sport 2 model. It's going to be coming loaded with a lot of features, different interior option colors, but exterior wise, they have done a very good job. A couple things I'm not going to be in favor though on this vehicle, and I'm going to start down here, is this front little lip. Now, it's a plastic kind of a matte silver or glossy silver color, and I think that if this was black, it would have well rounded off this vehicle a little bit more. I think it's kind of an eyesore in my opinion. You guys can let me know down below in the comments. Now, if I'm gonna then change over to the new Crown Signia, I think that the all black theme, they have done a very good job at. And the only thing I will want to be taking from the Lexus and putting it on this is going to be your front badge. The way the Lexus badge looks being more black and this one being only chrome, I think that's one thing I would be chrome deleting on my future Signia, is that would make the vehicle look a little bit more rounded and not be more of an eyesore on the front end. However, looking at, say, the grille design, I can kind of see the similarities on the vehicle. Now, this is going to be a smaller grille versus the NX350, but I actually like it. I think that maybe I would like if this grille was maybe double the size and this little inlet spot, this little weird, triangle cutout was kind of extended a little bit further down, and that would make it the perfect front end in my design. But I think over the Lexus, without having any chrome on the front, Toyota is definitely ahead on front end design. Okay, now getting onto the side profile of these two vehicles, I'm gonna start with actually an eyesore on the Crown Signia. It's going to be this little orange light. Now, I know on our roads in Canada, this is something that manufacturers have to do, so it's a clear side marker if this vehicle is on the road in the nighttime. I completely understand that, but I think Lexus's design to integrate this side marker in the front headlight definitely makes it look a little bit more well-rounded and not so much of an eyesore like this one is being right into the bumper. It's something I'm not going to be a fan of on the Signia, and especially next to this NX, is that this design I'm going to be in favor of over the Crown Signia. Now, if I'm taking a step back here and now looking at the wheels, I think that these two are very, very similar. The Signia is actually going to be 1 inch larger, 21-inch alloys on this package. This one's be coming with 20-inch alloys. Now, this is an all black package. I think that's the way they come from the factory. You guys can let me know or correct me down below in the comments, but I actually like this rim over this all black rim. I think that it just gives a little bit more contrast to the vehicle and makes it look a little bit more premium, that it's gonna stand out over, you know, an all black, and it's gonna really match the paint. I think that an off black like this gunmetal rim, they have done a very good job at designing, and something that I think looks really, really good on this new vehicle. Now, looking at the side profile of the actual wheel wells too, I've touched on this before, and I'm so glad this is not a matte black plastic. I'm happy it's gloss, because looking at these two side by side, they are very, very similar. It's actually interesting being next to these two vehicles and looking at it. If I covered up both of the logos, I would really think this is a Toyota, and I could think this is a Lexus at the same time. But I think having these fender flares gloss black has really made this vehicle look a little bit more well-rounded. Now, if I'm also gonna be taking a closer look onto the side profile of both of these vehicles, I'm gonna be in favor on Lexus for this one on a couple different things. Number one is going to be your actual mirror cap. The only thing I wish Lexus did was made this not a chrome piece. I would have loved if they matched it with this little gloss gunmetal color like the Toyota rims, because I think it wouldn't be as big as an eyesore versus what it looks like right now on the mirror cap. And just like the Toyota, if this was an all gloss black mirror cap, I think that would have just made it a little bit more well-rounded vehicle, I think. If I'm then taking a closer peek and looking at both these side by side, it's funny, Toyota calls this an SUV, I'm gonna call it a wagon. It definitely sits a little bit lower than the NX does, but one thing I'm gonna be in favor on the NX is that there is no chrome around the windows, there's no chrome on the roof rails, but the Toyota has that. And I think that Lexus and Toyota, they were so close at making this the perfect Toyota. The only thing they had to do was take this gunmetal trim around the windows and your roof rail, throw it onto this Crown Signia, and it is perfect in my opinion. I wouldn't change a single thing. Now, looking at both of these side by side, a couple things to note is that they are very, very similar. And they're similar in size-wise, they're similar powertrain-wise, similar storage-wise, but they're also very, very similar with convenience features. One being that every single door handle between these two vehicles are going to be smart key and easy access, which means you can unlock it and lock it with a simple push of a button on the outside of this, or you can put your hand into it, and that's gonna actually open it up on both of these two vehicles, making it very, very simple for you and your family or any of your passengers getting in and out. Now, taking a closer peek onto the rear end of both the NX and the Crown Signia, I'm gonna be starting with the Signia. Now, the biggest eyesore from the start is going to be this tiny little Toyota logo. And I think amongst all of our current SUVs, sedans, pickup trucks, this is gonna be the smallest logo they have ever put on one of our vehicles. And in my opinion, I don't even really know why it's needed. I know that a vehicle has to be branded with a logo on the back. However, I'm more than happy just seeing Crown on the back. And I like how it actually looks and how it's spaced out. I think that this kind of makes it look a little unbalanced in my opinion. You guys can let me know your opinion on that down below in the comments, but I'd actually be taking that off of mine. I really am not a huge fan of it. Now, the only interesting thing about this is that nowhere on this vehicle does it say Signia. It just says Crown. So the Signia is just the SUV, or in my opinion, the wagon version of our Crown sedan, which came back to market a couple years back. Now, this is going to be saying on the back HEV all-wheel drive, which is now Toyota's new way in our 2025s to say hybrid electric vehicle. And then obviously it's going to have your trim level here, which is your entry-level limited versus the advanced package, which is one step above this, and the only two trim levels that are offered on the Signia. Now, the big thing I'm going to be saying onto the rear with lighting is that this and the Lexus are very, very similar, with the simple light bar and your brake light bar going all the way across with your turn indicators built in. I think that this is a new design, which we don't have on really any of our current models. And I think that's something that I've always wanted to see, because I think Toyota has always been one step behind on our lighting game. And I think now, at least on this vehicle, they have definitely showed that on some of our new redesigned vehicles, this could be something that we could actually be in store for down the road. And I'm actually excited about that. I think that that's something that people want, having different lights on the road and actually kind of spotting in the nighttime, ooh, you know, what's that lighting on the back of that vehicle and what kind of vehicle it is. I think they have done a very good job. Now, the only weird thing though, I think, is that down here, this is your reverse lights, which I think is odd why it's down so low. And another reason why I think the wagon name, and I know other people have done reviews on this vehicle and people don't really know what to say. Is it an SUV? Is it a crossover? Is it a wagon? I think that it's definitely a wagon in my opinion. I think it's odd they put it down there. It's weird that it's not up a bit higher. And I think it might not be the easiest to actually see. I know it's a bright light in the nighttime, but something that I think is a really interesting thing that they have decided to add. Opening up the rear trunk of the Crown Signia, it does open up pretty quickly, which I'm happy to see. And the storage space is actually pretty deep in there, which is great. I think you can throw in a lot of stuff. The seats will fold 60-40, so you guys can throw any, Costco hauls, stuff up to the cottage very easily in this wagon. I'm actually gonna say that now for the rest of the video, I think. The only thing I find interesting is that this vehicle comes standard from Toyota with JBL sound system. Now, most of our vehicles that have that actually have a built-in subwoofer in the rear of the vehicle, and the vehicle that now the Signia is replacing, which is the Venza, used to have it. It used to be right here. It was actually pretty large. I think it was around 10 inches or so, and I think that it was, a very easy thing to look at in the trunk, thinking, okay, this is an upgraded model versus, an LE base level Venza. But I think it's interesting they didn't add that in this vehicle. So interesting choice from Toyota. If I'm taking a closer peek onto the Lexus, I think that the styling of the Lexus, yes, I know this is a new model that they redesigned this vehicle. I believe it was last year for 23, or maybe the 24s were redesigned for the NX. You guys can correct me down below, but I think styling wise, yeah, they've done a very, very good job. The only couple things I'm not going to be a huge fan of is going to be this massive chrome piece. I think that it's just not needed. And it's not even like a metal, it's just a plastic. So I think from a cost perspective, if you're just gonna make this gloss black, it would round out the vehicle a little bit more in my opinion. And I think that because it's not metal, say you had to replace it, it's not gonna cost an arm and a leg to do so. So I still think that's a really interesting thing that they have added on this Lexus, and something that I would want to be changing if I could from the factory, or just painting it or wrapping it a different color to actually match the either color of the vehicle or to match the wheels. I think that would look really, really good. Now, opening up the trunk of the Lexus, you'll be seeing that this one opens up around the same speed as the Crown does, which is actually pretty good. I've noticed a lot of vehicles on the market these days, the trunks don't open up as fast as I'd like them to. And obviously you're kind of waiting here with stuff in your hands as you're waiting to load that into your vehicle. Now, this one does come with this little privacy cover, and the Crown Signia does as well, except for it's a retractable one. This one, you can fold it up in half, put it in your garage, and just unclip these little ropes here, and that would obviously have any more extra space, anything higher up than this privacy cover. But looking at the rear trunk space, the Signia is definitely way deeper than the NX350 is. I think you could throw a lot more into it, and is maybe a little bit more practical than this vehicle. Don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of space to throw anything in it. You're not going to be crammed with space thinking you wish you got a bigger SUV. However, I still think that storage space on the NX is definitely a little bit smaller than the Crown Signia. Okay, now taking a closer peek onto the inside of the Crown Signia. Now, the shader is now completely closed, so it definitely feels a bit more compact in here and a little bit more squishy. If you open it up, which I would always be driving with it, this looks very, very similar to the NX that I was just in. It still has this interesting black piece that rolls across, but the only difference is you cannot open up this sunroof. It's just for the actual practicality of having a sunroof, which opens up the inside. Now, if I'm looking front end design, it's very, very similar. Shifter is very much so the same, but I think the layout of this is a little bit better in my opinion. I love the temperature controls on the NX350, but this is also very, very simple to use. These two vehicles are very similar features-wise and what is actually on the inside. Now, the Crown Signia can also come in two different color configure options on the inside, which is going to be either a black like it is today or a brown. Now, it's not an all black theme. They kind of have this like gold or like a light bronze stitching, which matches like your shift knob and a couple little bits of like your trim on the inside, which is going to be directly from a Crown Hybrid Max, for example, or a Grand Highlander Hybrid Max. And I think it's something that they've added into our newer vehicles, and something that I think gives it a different touch than any other vehicles that we currently offer in today's market. These do feel very, very premium. If I was not looking at this logo, I would think I'm in a Lexus just judging off of the layout of this vehicle and the way that the seats feel and just how comfortable I am sitting inside of this vehicle. Now, these two are very, very similar. So they're both going to have heated and cooled seats in the front. They're both going to have a heated steering wheel, which in the Crown Signia, they now offer an auto heated steering wheel with two different power options, either like a high or a low, which I think is pretty interesting. Both come with power folding mirrors. Both come with driver memory seats with two different driver options. I think that the layout of what they've actually done and what they've achieved in both these vehicles are very, very good. The only thing I will be saying that I'm taking this one over the NX4, I love the layout of this new screen. You can actually customize all three of these screens. So one here, one in the middle, and one to the right. And I think that that is really, really cool that this was directly from the new multi-information display from the 2022 Sequoia. And I think that they've now offered a bit more customization amongst the gauge cluster, which people are actually going to want, and something that I know I would have liked them to add to that generation of vehicle when it was new. So a couple other things that I think is just laid out a little bit better, and it's going to be the wireless phone charger. It's vertical versus a horizontal mount that was in the NX, and I think it just serves more purpose. It's less clutter, and I like to keep it neat. On the inside of my personal car, I like to keep it clean, and I like that there's not a whole lot of wires or different spots for things to be, and I think that that's something I think they have done a very good job at. Now, this being a 2025 and our newest vehicle to market, they have definitely added the best screens, the best features, and a lot of great things from the factory like this, which is your digital rear view display. So this is just showing me the mirror right now. If I flip this towards me, it actually shows a camera of what is behind me. Now, you can actually move to show you different angles of this depending on what you want to see on the road, but it's very, very clear. And I think it's really cool to add that you can put this on most of our vehicles from Toyota as a genuine Toyota accessory. And I think that you can then pair this up to 3 garage doors and just gives you a bit more convenience, and something that I love that's standard on this package. The other thing that's standard that the NX is not standard with is a JBL sound system, or just an upgraded sound system that Lexus would offer. And I think that this vehicle, having all of those things standard as an entry-level package, this definitely rivals with the NX or an RX in my opinion. And if you guys own one of those vehicles, I want to know if you guys are persuaded to maybe come check out this vehicle that comes in at a different price point, and also a hybrid powertrain that this one's standard in. So I think that's something that adding this to the market, they have done a good job to kind of really make someone think, okay, if I'm going to go Lexus, am I going to go Toyota? Am I going to go a different manufacturer? You guys can let me know what you guys would be thinking. All right, now let's take a closer peek onto the inside of the NX350. Now, we're going to start with the obvious, which is the red color. It is very red. And in my opinion, it's actually not a terrible red either. I think that if this was a bit brighter, I wouldn't be a huge fan of it, and it would remind me of Toyota's version of our red, which is cockpit red. And I think this darker color definitely kind of looks like the Supra red, if you've ever seen that, and something that I think looks pretty cool and is different on an SUV. I think most SUVs come with a black interior, a brown, maybe even like a light tan or a light cream color, and I think having a red mixed with this black interior definitely looks pretty cool in my opinion. Now, I think the Signia offers a bit more space on the inside, and I don't feel as crammed, I would say, on the inside. And a lot of the things are very, very close with this vehicle. Number one is going to be this shifter. This shifter is exactly what is in the Crown Signia and a couple other of our SUVs that we offer, and actually a couple sedans too. The big thing though, I'm going to be saying that I actually like on this one over the Signia. Now, number one is going to be these temperature control knobs. I think this is one of the coolest things that I have ever seen in a new vehicle, and that it's this digital screen behind the actual knob to change the temperature in the vehicle. To the left, it's kind of like a bluey color. The middle, it's like a purple, and then it goes like a pink, and then to a red, which definitely symbolizes, you know, left is cold, right is warm. And I think it's one thing that I just don't see a whole lot of in a vehicle. Now, one thing I will be showing is that this vehicle does have a moonroof. Now, I'm gonna also start being in that Crown with the shader being fully closed as well. Having this open definitely makes the vehicle feel a little bit bigger, and is something that I would always be having open on my vehicle. The only difference from this one to that one is that you can actually open up this sunroof which is actually pretty nice. The one on the Signia is going to be a fixed sunroof. Now, I don't really know if I'd really need the use of a sunroof. It's definitely nice, maybe a nice convenience feature to have, but I'm not someone who really needs the use of the sunroof. I just like all the light that it actually brings into the inside of these vehicles. Now, a couple other things on the inside that I will be touching on. Both of these come with heated and cooled seats, which are going to be a 3-stage power option to either make it super cold or super warm with a built-in heated steering wheel. Now, it's interesting though, a couple small things is that your different drive mode selectors are right here. And I will be saying, being inside this vehicle, there are a lot of like twisty knobs. And I think it's really weird to say that, but it's true. Your start stop button is, obviously it's a button, but it's still a circular knob. Same with your volume, same with your drive control. And I think it is a little bit overkill, and it's something that it's kind of funny in my opinion. Definitely still looks good. It's just something I've noticed being on the inside. Now, the big thing I will say is that they have done a very good job at making this tachometer, which is fully digital in the NX350, very visually appealing. Now, I've been on the inside of a few different Lexuses. In an IS300 that I did, they actually had the shifter that moved left to right. Now, I think that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I know that came straight from the Lexus LFA, and just being a huge car nerd, I think that is so cool that it's still something they're offering in their vehicles, you know, over 10 years later before the LFA was actually released. Now, I think that looks really cool, but I still think the different customizations of the Crown Signia's screen centered in front of the driver gives you a few more options that the NX does not. And if you're looking for something that has those options, the Crown Signia definitely could be a choice for you, with a 3 digital gauge cluster, which is completely customizable now, which is something that came very, very similar in a Sequoia back in 2022 when those were redesigned, but now they offer more customization for anyone using those features on the front, which I think people would want. I think that's a really good change that they have done. The one thing I will be saying that I think is really interesting on both of these vehicles is that both come with paddle shifters, and I'm not really too sure why. I know some vehicles come with that, but I think it's more on the performance side that people will be adding paddle shifters in. And I think it's funny that it's in both of these vehicles, and I would really love to know if you do own an NX or an RX, do you guys actually use your paddle shifters? I know the ISs, you can get an IS, 500 for example, and that being a very powerful vehicle, yeah, you'd want the paddle shifters, but I think it's really funny that they've added it on an SUV for the family. The only other thing I will be chatting about before I get out is going to be getting in and out of this vehicle. I think that this design is really interesting. Now, I know it's not the typical design you pull out, and it's more convenient because it looks more clean with the car. I think it's interesting. It's something to definitely get used to, where you simply push this in and your door will open for you, or you can actually pull it out like a typical door handle, and then you and your passengers can jump out. All right, now let's jump into the back of the 2025 Crown Signia. So, getting in, I definitely feel like I have more space. Now, I know this comes in a little bit shorter than the NX350, but I still think I have a lot of room back here. And this versus the vehicle it's replacing, which is the Venza, they've definitely added more room. It's actually 6.5% bigger than the Venza. Now, I know it's probably not the biggest number, but I think that judging off of what people had said about that vehicle and the improvements that they wanted, one being space in the rear, they've definitely executed that very well, in my opinion. Now, obviously having this panoramic moonroof come into the back, it definitely makes it feel a bit bigger. And I have sat back here with the moonroof closed, and it definitely feels a bit smaller. So in my opinion, I'd always have it open. I just think the light and the extra room definitely makes this wagon feel a bit bigger, in my opinion. Now, a couple things I love onto the rear is going to be my space with my legs. I think that I am a bigger person, and getting into the rear of a vehicle, not being a 7 or an 8 passenger or a Sienna, which is our minivan, I think that this has definitely done a good job to give a lot of comfortable space to any passenger in this vehicle. Now, you may argue the person in the middle might be a little bit uncomfortable, and you're probably right. But I think that any 1, 2 spaces back here, or the 2 seats in the front, you would be in any one of those and still be having a great car ride experience. So a couple things that are different though, into the rear of this vehicle, you do have heated seats versus that NX. In that package, it does not have them. And I'm not too sure if you can get an NX with heated rear seats. I'm sure you probably can, because that one's an F Sport 2 model, I believe. Now, I still keep saying I believe because I think, judging off my research, that's what it is. You guys can correct me down below. The other thing that I find very convenient is this strap that's here. We don't offer a lot of SUVs that have this, and it's typically you have to kind of weasel your fingers in to actually get this to come down. But when it does come down, even just this look of it, which I know is so simple and is something so minuscule on a vehicle, and it's something that most people probably don't touch on, but I think that just the look of this is a different look versus any other cup holders that we've ever had in a rear of any of our SUVs. And I think that this is the best looking. It feels the best, it looks the best, and it's the most practical to actually use. You guys can let me know if you guys have thought about that in, say, a RAV4 or a Venza. Other than that though, they've done a great job. I really can't complain about anything on the inside of this vehicle. And there's a couple small things that every manufacturer may miss, or that it's maybe not catered to my direct needs, but I think any person in the market for a new SUV that maybe isn't the tallest on the road, but something that is comfortable for all passengers, this could definitely be a new vehicle for you. Alrighty, now jumping into the back of the NX350. Now this red theme does continue into the back, and I like it. I don't think it's overkill. I think it just looks very, very different. And I'm kind of happy that they've done something different rather than an all black interior, because I think this definitely makes this pop out a little bit different versus any other vehicle on the market. Now, I left the front seat exactly where I was sitting, and I was very comfortable there. I wouldn't have moved it at all. My leg space is definitely a little bit restrained in the back of this. Now, I probably could have moved this seat up a little bit more. However, that was kind of the most comfy I could probably be. Now, I'm not uncomfortable back here, but I think judging between these two vehicles, I definitely have more space onto the Signia, and that's why I think it's more of like that wagony feel, because it definitely feels a bit longer than this vehicle. It might not be as tall as the NX350, but I think that I definitely sit a little bit higher up here, and I like the actual feel of where I'm sitting in the Signia a little bit better. Now, one thing I will note is that the Lexus has a strap up here to pull down your cup holders. Now, and again, I think it's something so small, but onto the Signia and looking at all the new features that have kind of added and the improvements they've made on other SUVs that we currently have, I like the look of the actual way that this folds down versus the Signia a little bit better, in my opinion. I think that this matte plastic definitely feels a little bit cheaper and is something that I wouldn't be expecting getting into a new Lexus. Now, convenience features wise, in the back of one of these, I've got 2 USB-C ports there, which is nice to keep my stuff charged up. I've got 120 watt there too if we want to plug in like a laptop or something like that. But other than that, there's 2 vents, there's no heated seats. Yes, you've got speakers built in up here, which is super nice. Other than that though, there's not a whole lot to be offered in the back of this vehicle. And I think if I'm gonna be sitting in the back of these two vehicles, the Crown Signia is something I'll be taking over the NX350. Now to wrap things up, guys, we're gonna be talking about 2 differences, which is gonna be the price and the fuel of these 2 vehicles. Now, the NX350 comes in taking premium fuel over the Crown Signia, which is regular fuel. So you have to imagine you'll be spending a little bit more at the pumps in this Lexus versus the Crown Signia. The other big difference is going to be pricing. A 2024 NX350 comes in at a starting price around $52,550, and that can work all the way up to $66,400 as your MSRP for one of these vehicles. Obviously, with MSRP, you have to add freight, PDI, admin fees, subtotal of taxes, and licensing, but that is definitely a premium dollar to be spending on an SUV. Now, if you're comparing that versus the Crown Signia, this being a limited is going to be coming in at $57,450, which is actually kind of the middle ground between the starting price of the NX350 going all the way up to the highest end for one of these. So it's definitely a very, very close comparison between these 2 vehicles. And I want to know, which way would you guys want to go? Would you go Lexus or would you go Toyota? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys think. Again, my name is Aiden with Upper James Toyota. Please do not forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of our future related Toyota content, and we'll check you guys out in the next video.